Jen, the Liberty Lion, and today we're going to talk about how the state republics are still good constitutions, good law, how they still exist. So I'm going to use Texas as my example. I believe it's the same in every state. And if you go to your law library and you look up the jurisprudence manuals for your state, so for Texas, it's Texas Jurisprudence 3rd edition. I don't know what edition will be in the other states, so you'll have to just go in and look and ask. And then once you go into the law library and you find the jurisdiction manuals, you'll look up the S volumes, and it's probably going to be in 2 volumes. The second one will be statehood. So you look up statehood and read what it has to say under in general statehood. Okay, so for Texas, I'm going to tell you what it says, and I'm going to give you my interpretation of what the meaning is and what they say in the jurisprudence manual for Texas. Okay, so I go to the law library, I look at the Texas jurisprudence manuals, I look up the book for statehood, the S is for statehood, and I go to in general, section 1, statehood generally, and it says Texas. Okay, Texas was admitted as a state of the Union on December 29th, 1845 by a joint resolution of the United States Congress. Okay, that's different from the United States of America and Congress assembled. This is the United States Congress. So this is, if you've been following me, you know that I say that the United States is the military. So we're talking about the military Congress. Okay, so the states Congress, when they convene, is the United States of America and Congress assembled. And when the military convenes, it's the United States and Congress assembled. So this is a joint resolution of the military and Congress and the convention of the Republic of Texas, with the Republic thus becoming a state on equal footing in all respects with the original states. Although the government and laws of the Republic were held to be in force until the state government was organized on February 16, 1846. The former governmental system was abrogated, keyword insofar. Okay, that's the key word here that we're looking for, insofar, meaning not completely abrogated, meaning not completely repealed, not completely replaced, only insofar as it conflicted with federal authority and the Constitution and laws of the United States, which is the military, were in force in Texas immediately on its admission as a state. So all of Texas as a territory is not necessarily a state. People create states. People create a form of government. They give themselves a situation. A situation is a situs. A situs is a situ. A situ is a status, okay? So they give themselves a form of government. That form of government is a republic. So it says here that the republic was not gone. It wasn't completely repealed. It wasn't completely replaced. It was only sort of moved to the side while the federal government came in, and then if there was a confliction of jurisdiction, because jurisdictions can never conflict, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. 2 jurisdictions can never conflict. They have to work together. Otherwise, you have someone committing a crime and maybe not committing a crime by the same act at the same time, because one jurisdiction might say it's a crime And another jurisdiction might say it's not a crime. So what is it? Is it a crime or not? So you have to have lines drawn between, if you do this act here, it's a crime. If you do it here in this other place, it's not a crime. So the Republic of Texas, its jurisdiction was abrogated only when it conflicts with the military jurisdiction. And I say military jurisdiction because it says the United States. It doesn't say the United States of America. There is no confliction between the Republic and the United States of America. There's no confliction there. The only conflict that can possibly occur is between the Republic and the military, and that's because the military has lands inside Texas, and the Republic has lands inside Texas. So the Republic, because it's a civilian government, and the federal, which has lands inside Texas, is the military government. Those are the citizens of the United States on those lands. You have civilians and you have military, and civilians are always higher than military. Civilians are the sovereign. Military are always under contract, okay? When you enlist into the military of the United States and any of the armed forces, also called armies of the United States, you're under contract. You're under contract to serve. So if they tell you jump, you say how high. If they give you orders, you follow them. If they say go here, you go there. If they say now go over there, you go over there. You're under command of the president as commander-in-chief of the land and naval forces. And the same thing works if you're a non-commissioned officer or if you're a commissioned officer. So when there is a conflict between the military and the citizens of the Republic who are civilians, the military has priority when they're doing military works. Okay, so this is the situation in Texas, and it's the situation in all the states because the states ratified the federal constitution. Now that doesn't mean that their constitution was now gone and now we have a state of Texas constitution. No, what it means is the Republic of Texas still exists, but it doesn't conflict with military works, cannot conflict with military works. Okay, and that's what they agreed to when they ratified the Constitution. That's what the states, republics agreed to when they ratified the Constitution. So Texas was admitted as a state, so it ratified the Constitution, the federal military constitution, on December 29th, 1845 by a joint resolution between the Military Congress, which is the Congress of the United States, and the Convention of the Republic of Texas, so the state legislatures, with the Republic becoming a state. So it doesn't, you can't repeal something and say it became a state at the same time. And it doesn't say the state of Texas became a state, it says the Republic became a state on equal footing in all respects with the original states. So all the original states are also republics because they're equal. They're on equal footing. They're served by the military equally. Although the government and laws of the republic were held to be in force until the state government was organized on February 16th, 1846. So Texas had a military, it had a navy, it had I guess in some respects, a bigger, better military than the United States had. And that's one of the reasons why the United States really needed Texas to join the Union, because then they had to give up all their, or they agreed to give up all their military to the federal government, to the organized military. So all those things became under the control of the national military, which is the United States. those lands that they had set aside for the military, those lands also were purchased by the United States, because this is the way it works. This is the way it works in the Constitution. This is the way it's shown to have worked in the laws of the United States that we can look at. And that's the way it works historically. And if you go into the law libraries, you can also find a list of the federal lands that the federal government has power and control over. Okay, so they have their lands, and the republics have their lands, and they have their people under contract, their troops and their commissioned and non-commissioned officers. They're over there with the Fed on federal lands, and the republic citizens, the civilians, are over here in the republic. So they exist at the same time. The republic only yielded its power, its lawmaking authority, its jurisdiction only over the military lands and the military equipment that it gave up for control of the United States. So now the United States has that jurisdiction and the power over those places. So we have two jurisdictions inside Texas. We have the Republic of Texas and the federal lands under the control of the United States. Clear and defined lines between them, federal lands, non-federal lands, and they don't conflict. So there had to be contracts worked out, there had to be agreements resolved, there had to be agreements as far as what laws the federal government will follow that the state makes, like such as environmental laws. If there's a river that runs through federal lands and then off federal lands and it goes down a ways, and let's say there's a farmer down there and he uses this river to feed his cattle, the military cannot contaminate the river. So there are some laws that apply on federal lands, but as far as what the federal government does military-wise on federal lands, the state can't get involved in that. They can't shut them down. They can't go over there and say, well, we're just not going to let you do this, because the military works comes first. Okay? Now, if they go off the federal lands, that's a little bit different in some situations, but let's say you're traveling from one military post to another, the military has the right to move their equipment and their personnel, okay, or products, food and stuff, okay? So the state can't stop them, even when the military is off federal lands, because the state agrees not to interfere with the works of the military. The military works. The military has to be able to do their stuff, okay? So the republic yielded to the federal government its power only as far as what the federal government is doing militarily, okay? And that's the federal constitution is the constitution for the military. Okay, so insofar as it conflicted with federal authority, and the Constitution and laws of the United States were enforced in Texas immediately on its admission as a state. So immediately when the Constitution was ratified, both the Republic of Texas agreed and the military government agreed. That's the United States and the Constitution of the United States. So long as they both agreed, then the laws in Texas were stopped as far as it conflicted with the military stuff. So enforced in Texas immediately on its admission as a state, immediately. So we can see this in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Okay, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Got paper stuck together. Okay. So, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. To exercise, okay, this is the first part. There's two parts. There's a first part and there's a second part. The first part has to do with the seat of government. The second part has to do with the military post. Okay? To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over the district, not exceeding 10 square miles, is made by session of particular states, and the acceptance of Congress become the seat of government of the United States, the seat of government of the military. We know that's where all the stuff takes place, not just the military stuff, but the Pentagon is there, and that's where the military's headquarters is. The second part of this is that, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislator of state. So remember we said that here. The Republic of Texas had to agree. The legislators of the state in which the same shall be for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, stockyards, and other needful buildings. Okay, so these are military posts. And so Eisenhower put together a committee that went through all the papers of the attorney generals of all the states. They collected all tons and tons and tons, boxes and boxes of papers and information. And with that, they were able to put together a couple of reports. And in these reports, they say that the federal lands are like islands in the states. They're not the states, they're not part of the republic. And what in fact do we know that the federal government has inside the states? Military posts. And those were from the beginning, right after the Constitution was ratified by a state, they started building military posts. Now, along later, they parks and all other kinds of things that's outside of the Constitution. Okay, so when we're looking at our state republics, a lot of people will say, well, the federal Constitution repealed or replaced the state constitution, the republics, they no longer exist. That's not true, and it says that in the current laws that we have on the books. Texas Jurisprudence 3rd edition is the most current law in Texas, and it tells us that the republics Texas, 1, still exists, and 2, it only gave up the power to make laws over the federal lands, and it gave up the power to control an organized military. It agreed to have a national military, and other than those things, it won't interfere with military stuff going on in between posts. So they won't stop travel of soldiers, they won't stop the movement of equipment, and so on and so forth. And other than that, the Republic of Texas is supposed to have complete power and control over all non-military posts inside Texas. Okay? And it says that. It only gave up power insofar as it conflicted with federal authority. It abrogated insofar, that's our key word, insofar as it conflicted with federal authority. That's our phrase. Conflicted with federal authority. Most things of the Republic of Texas do not conflict with federal authority. And it's good law for us civilians living inside Texas. This was supposed to be our government, and the feds in the contract, or whatever you want to call it, that we agreed to, says that they will protect the state republics. Okay, so the republics, for one, they still exist. Okay. The federal government is given, the military government is given some military powers for certain situations, okay? All the time on military posts, because that's their defined jurisdiction, is the military post. But also off the military post when they're traveling. And it says here, when a governor of a state feels that his republic is being threatened, he can call the president, who's the executive officer of the United States of America, and ask him for help. Or the legislature. If the legislature can't convene, they call the president, if the legislative can be convened, the governor will go through the legislature in Washington, which here would actually be a military legislative Congress. So if a governor of the Republic of Texas needs help, he can call upon the military Congress, which is the Congress of the United States, or the president. Because one of the jobs, the biggest job of the military, is to protect the republics, right? The United States, so when I see United States, I say military. The military shall guarantee to every state in this union a Republican form of government, okay? We see that we have a Republican form of government in Texas. It's right here. A Republican form in Texas. But the Republican form doesn't exist on the federal lands because you can't be a republic military. You have to be republic civilian. The military is, to me, it looks like a stratocracy. Okay, that stratocracy is the military that protects the republics. That military, they're under contract to serve for a number of years. Why? Because the president needs to know at all times how many troops he has. So if there's a war, how many people do I have to call in from the militia? How many people in Virginia do I need to move to Oklahoma? Because Oklahoma doesn't have a big military jurisdiction, a big military personnel. Okay, not a lot of military people in Oklahoma. So we got to move them in from other states because we have an abundance in Tennessee and we don't have very many in Utah. Okay, so he's got to know, as a commander-in-chief, where everybody is and how many people are there and where he needs to move people and whether he should call in the militia or whether he should move military. You know, what's more economically feasible probably is a question he would ask himself and answer. Okay, so the republics still exist. It's on the law. I don't know what your state says. You'll have to go to the law library, but because all the states ratified the Constitution, the federal Constitution, and the federal Constitution guarantees to each state in this union a Republican form of government, they must still exist. If they don't still exist, then where is our military? Okay, another question I'd like to ask is, if the president is supposed to have 14 years military service as a resident of the United States on federal lands, and the presidents we have don't have that, Biden doesn't have that, Kamala doesn't have it, Trump doesn't have it, Clinton didn't have it, Obama didn't have it. How are these people commanding the military if the president is also the commander-in-chief of the military? Who's commanding the military? Who's in command? This president doesn't qualify to command the military. If he doesn't qualify to command the military, who's in command of the military? If nobody's in command of the military, then we don't have a military. If the president, without his years of service, is in command of the military, this is a different military. It's not the one in the Constitution. That's just me trying to logic and reason everything out, okay? So you can come up with your own opinions, and I'm interested to hear what you have to say. Post them in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please share this video. You can share it in any way you feel. Point them back to my channel so that we can keep going with the videos and increase our base and get some more support out here for freedom. Okay, and with that, I bid you farewell. Have a good rest of the day, and I'll see you in the next video.